السلام عليكم. ازي حالكم النهارده؟ اولا انا شاكر جدا دعوتكم ليا النهارده. انا بصراحه ما توقعتش الحضور العظيم ده. انا كنت متوقع ان هي برزنتيشن يعني اقل، فانا يشرفني جدا اكون معاكم ويشرفني ان انا اقدم لكم العرض ده. I will present my slides in the order and as designed, but please, I really love interaction. So if there's anything that is interesting, you would like to comment, you would like to ask any questions, clarify, or criticize whatever I'm saying, I'm quite open to all that. Please do so, raise your hand. There are mics around here, and I'm looking forward to interacting with you. Thank you very much for having me. I would like to start with a quote. George Westerman is one of the leading thinkers in digital transformation, and he has a cautionary quote here. The digital transformation is very, very attractive, it's very useful, is the way forward, but we as HR people, we need to do it right. It is a serious undertaking, and what George Westerman said, the allegory he used is, if you do a digital transformation correctly, it's like changing from a caterpillar to a butterfly. You have small creature, unremarkable, and then all of a sudden it transforms into something very beautiful, but only if it's done right. If we invest in HR digital transformation, in digital transformation in general, and digitize, and we buy a lot of tools, but we don't do it right, what we'll end up with is still a caterpillar, which is very expensive, very fast, but it's not a butterfly, it's still a caterpillar. So this is just to indicate the importance of doing things right and keeping a focus on the value of what we're trying to deliver. So what we're going to talk about today, a few topics. I did not arrange them in a linear way because it's such a wide topic to discuss. We'll talk a little bit about how things evolved from the past to the present, and then a view into the future at the end of the presentation. And then we will talk about some applications and cases of digital transformation. And then we'll talk about some challenges and success factors and risks that can derail digital transformation and prevent it from becoming the butterfly that we want it to be. So first of all, I always like to do a common grounded definition. So it's very important for us to speak the same language. So there's a lot of terminology flying around, and because this terminology is generally invented by IT people and not by us, we usually get mixed up, and we use different terms that mean different things. So at first, I would like to just ensure that we speak the same language. So when we talk about digital transformation, it flies around so much, but what it really means is transferring from manual processes, from manual files, from manual steps and administration into using the digital tools. Now, what does digital transformation for HR mean? So HR digital transformation, it's part of the larger digital transformation. What it means for HR is two things, really, and it's very important to keep in mind both things. First, we need to adopt the digital tools and the digital processes and the strategies that are part of the larger digital transformation. But in HR, we have a responsibility to embed the culture and embed the HR and all the transformation things in the workforce. So not just for our department, but across all the workforce. So what does it mean? It means that, let's say we implement a digital process for talent management or for performance management. So instead of doing performance management with forms, with paper, end of year meeting, we put a new system, electronic system. It's good, but it's also our responsibility to make sure that the people who use this system understand it, accept it, and it's clear and easy to them. Because if we just focus on our part and we do just the HR part, at the end of the day, it will not be effective. So our responsibility as HR is to do both things. Challenge of transforming the HR operations, our back office, but also embedding the culture in the organization. Now, there are also some fine distinctions in the terminology. So we'll look at digital, digitization, and digitalization. And I don't even know how to differentiate them in Arabic. But so digital, if we see it in literature, digital is just using the digital tools, digital technology, digital processes to digitize things from numerical, from paper, from analog into digital. Digitization is the conversion from paper and from analog into digital format, and the digitalization is implementing the processes and implementing all the policies and strategies to use the digital tools and digital technology in the workplace. What else do we have? We have artificial intelligence, which following presenters will talk about in depth, but basically the AI is technology that enables machines to behave and to react at some level similar to humans. There are different levels to that. There is the narrow AI, the wide AI, and the super AI. But basically, it's just different levels in technology behaving like a person. So, for example, Amar, you used to call the support line for Amar, and then you hear some choices, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then you choose and you speak with a person. Recently, Amar introduced AI response system. So when you speak, there is a computer responding to you like a person, and that computer is trying to understand your language, is trying to understand what you're saying. And as a customer of Amar, I tried the system when they just introduced it, and it was a bit frustrating because it did not understand the language very well. So you had to try again and again and again. But what's happening is that this system, because it's like a person, it is learning, and it is improving itself. And that's the difference between a normal computer and AI computer, because it has the ability to learn. And the way it learns is through things like machine learning and deep learning, which is a system allowing the computer to recognize patterns, recognize words. In the case of Amar, it recognizes how people speak, and then it improves itself. There are things like big data. So big data is what feeds and what drives AI and what drives the digital transformation. And big data is the ability of computers to process huge amounts of data, not just data from HR, but data coming from many, many sources. Data from attendance, data from cameras, data from social media, data from records, data from performance, data from business results. All this data is flooding into the system, and all this data is being processed to get insights. And one of my favorite topics for HR is people analytics. So people analytics processes all this data and gives us insights, and I will talk about it a little bit at the end. So there is a lot happening in the media, in everywhere around us, and I just took some screenshots from the news and from the articles that we see bombarded. So this is from Harvard Business Review. If you make a search, you see Harvard Business Review talking about digital transformation and talent, not technology. Must make people analytics more friendly so that people can use them. People analytics change your processes. If you look at other sites talking about HR playing a role, making an impact, tough choices, digital transformation, so on. This is from Forbes. How can HR play a leading role in transformation? So there's a lot of stuff happening in the media, and for us as HR professionals, we need to be able to distinguish and remove the noise and understand what each topic means for us, what is topical, what is important to our customers, to the workforce and to the managers, and what we need to focus on and what we need to prioritize. Now, simple examples and examples that exist today of HR digital transformation, there is many, but I just chose 4. These things we already have and we already implement in many areas of the business, things like automation. So in many, many places, mashallah, in the UAE government, we automated and we digitized so many processes. People don't need to go to the offices and apply for papers or do something. A lot of stuff is being done online. A lot of processes inside HR, things like in organizations when people want to apply for leave, when people want to apply for a transfer or so on, all those administrative processes, we already are at the stage where we automated most of them. And that is because of digital transformation, because of the digital ability. We have the chatbots. So in many places, instead of chatting or talking to a person, you have a computer that sits and looks at the messages, and this computer understands what's behind the messages, understands the text, irrespective of the language of the person. The computer uses AI to learn and understand the context of the messages, and is getting better and better at replying and addressing the issues that people raise. An interesting one is online onboarding. So when people arrive into an organization, be it a new hire, or be it a visitor, or be it a temporary worker, what we used to do before, we used to wait for them and meet them and organize a program for them, bring everybody to sit in the room and give them the same program, hoping that they will get a good idea about the organization. Now, with digital transformation, what we can do, we can learn about the person, learn about what they know, what they don't know. We learn about what their role would be in the organization, and then the digital onboarding will customize the onboarding package for each individual and deliver that package to each individual at the time and at the pace that suits them. So it's not one thing for everyone, but it's a customized onboarding for each person based on their fit and their experience and their understanding of the organization. And AI-based recruitment, again, the recruitment has evolved a lot with the advent of AI. AI now helps to read CVs, helps to sift individuals. It even helps to understand the fit of the person to the organization, which I'll mention a little bit more as we go forward. Now, what are the stages of the HR digital transformation? The digital transformation in general, it goes through a few stages, and it's important to recognize what stage we are in different places, because depending on the stage, we need to apply and we need to be ready for different things. So at the beginning, it's business as usual. People don't know what is a digital transformation, or people just hear about it, but they don't practice it. The second step is present and active. It means that at this stage, some digital transformation awareness is present, some tools are already being tried, and there are, in different spots in the organization, there are beginnings of digitization digital tools. Now, at the third stage, this is where things start getting serious. The third stage, the formalization, this is where the leaders of the organization start asking, we hear about all these digital transformation initiatives going on. We want to know how it will serve our strategy and to what level we need to embed it and support it. So it's really important at stage 3 that if we have tests, we have experiments with digital transformation, we have new tools that are coming in, this is the stage where we as HR, we engage with the leadership and we make sure that whatever we're doing makes sense, aligns with the strategy, aligns with the direction that we're going in, and has clear expected outcomes and impact down the road. Now, once we have the stage and once we get the agreement with the management, then digital transformation becomes an integral part of the strategy. And we start doing digital transformation as an organization instead of different pockets in different areas of the organization. So if we apply it to Dubai government HR, at stage 3, or before stage 3, you can see different entities in the government, each one trying or experimenting with a tool. But when we go into stage 3 and 4, it all must align with the direction and with the strategy of the government of the Dubai Emirate, and it all must start to kind of march in tune and it stops becoming different experiments. Now, in the converge and innovate stage, at the converge stage, the organization realizes that digital transformation is an integral and inseparable part of the business, and this is where we start having digital transformation teams specialized in the organization. These are teams dedicated to digital transformation. They move around and they support the organization to move as a unit and to implement digital transformation across the board. And then once that stage is comfortable and we past that stage, then we start to innovate, and we start to, at stage 6, we innovate and adapt, and we come up with new ways and improved ways of digital transformation as part of the whole organization. Now, from my experience and from what I've seen around, the biggest threat to the effectiveness of digital transformation is people think of it as technology. So people think if we bring this technology and we put, like I mentioned earlier, if we put a new performance management system, it means we achieved digital transformation. And I would like to say, no, that is not true. The system and the technology is the means, but the digital transformation is achieved when the system is used, when people are using it everywhere, and when we see the benefits from using the system. Because otherwise, if the system is there and people use it, but we don't see the benefits, then we did not achieve the digital transformation. And that's why we say that HR technology is not digital transformation, but the improved employee engagement and experience, improved performance. When we see those indicators, that means that the digital transformation is successful. So what is the process? How do you go about the digital transformation? One of the studies suggested, I mean, there are many studies, but one of the studies suggested this process. We start by defining the goal. So what are the easier goals? What are the measurable goals? What is the impact that we're going to have from the digital transformation? Then we need to consider who will implement it, which parts of the organization, which functions, which departments, and who is best suited, and who will be responsible for what. Then we realize, usually, because we are HR people or not IT people, not professionals, we realize that we need specialist help. And at this stage, we need to be clear what kind of help and what kind of expertise we will need to keep us moving forward. Because if we're not clear on that, then as people who are not specialized, we are quite likely to start moving in the wrong direction. Next stage is a plan, a time frame. So when we implement digital transformation, we need to have some milestones and we need to see some success indicators down the road, which is quite interesting, quite controversial in a way, because one of the main tenets, if you want, or one of the main ideas of the digital transformation, it has no end. So it's really improper and incorrect to say, well, we started digital transformation last year, and next year we will finish the digital transformation. Digital transformation will not finish ever, because as long as new technology is coming up, as long as new processes are coming up, it will always keep moving and always keep transforming. So in your organization, your departments, if you see a mindset of management or a mindset of your leaders saying, okay, we will run digital transformation for 2 years, and then we will be done, we will be transformed, that is an incorrect mindset. And it's our role as HR to educate and to support people and tell them, actually, no, it's a journey of continuous improvement and journey of continuous evolution. And that is the mindset that we need to embed. However, just to make sure that this journey is moving in the right direction, our step number 4, we need to have time frames to success. So again, my favorite example, if we implement, for example, a digital performance management system, we want to see after 2 years, after 3 years, we want to see the impact of this system and how it helps improve the performance and how it helps us manage the performance of people. It doesn't mean that at that stage, digital transformation will be finished, but this is a milestone and one of the goals that we want to achieve at that stage. Then it is very important, we need to look at what will need to be phased out. So we don't keep adding digital transformation on top of everything. Some things will become obsolete, and some things will have to go away and die. And it is also an important piece because some of those things will be very dear to people. So you'll find people who use the system for many years, who love that system, and who will resist you if you tell them this system is going away. So again, it's a mindset change for us as an HR. It's not the technology, but it is our role to educate people and to get them used to the idea that some of the old stuff will have to go, some of the new stuff will come in. It will not be comfortable because you'll have to learn the new system, you'll have to get used to the new system, but you need to get used that this is a continuous evolution. Then the next step is making the case to invest. So once this is almost commensurate with stage 4 or 5 from the previous slide, we will need to make some investments. And some investments will be expensive, and expensive investments need a good case. So the good case for investment is something that is convincing to the leadership, convincing to the decision makers that there is a positive return on our investment, there is a positive outcome. It could be positive in terms of finance, in terms of profit, it could be positive in terms of employee experience, it could be positive in any other terms, but we need to make our best to assess it and to measure it and to say, right, 2, 3 years down the road, 5 years down the road, this is how the improvement will look like, and this is how we can prove it, that it will be better than what we have today. And then the last stage is prepare for change and create a culture of digitalization. And the culture is the piece that will make sure that the digital transformation is continuous. If it becomes part of our culture, it becomes part of our day-to-day business, then everybody will accept that we will keep improving as long as we're there. Now, as any new process, there are always risks and barriers and derailers. So these are the 5 things, one of the ideas. This is one of the five things that can risk or can derail the digital transformation. Things like lack of clear strategy or goals. So if we're doing digital transformation just because everybody's doing it, or we said, oh, all the other organizations are doing digital transformation, so we better start doing it, it's not a sustainable approach. We should do digital transformation because we have a clear strategy and we have a clear goal and we have clear outcomes and benefits at the end of the line. If we have resistance from the decision makers, from the C-suite, so people who are influential, they can say, yeah, okay, but they are not really engaged in it. Then later down the road, when you need more money, when you need more support, when you need them to come and defend you, their heart will not be there. So it is really important that we present a good and engaging and convincing case to the decision makers so that they will continue supporting us all the way. Lack of budget, well, I don't need to say anything. Lack of budget is familiar to everyone. So if we don't have the right budget allocated to the initiative, usually it will mean that this initiative will not succeed. Lack of expertise. I mentioned earlier on, we need to be sure that we know what kind of expertise we need, and we need to have a plan and a way to get this expertise, because the digital transformation requires an evolution of knowledge. So the person who was an expert 5 years ago, if that person didn't evolve, he's not an expert anymore today. So we need to keep an eye and keep chasing what kind of expertise we need for the current stage and for the future stage of digital transformation. And then this is also quite typical, lack of agility. So things change. It is almost impossible to find a project that runs for even 2 years or 3 years, same as it was designed from the beginning. For sure, when you start a project, six months down the road, 9 months down the road, you discover there is a new technology, there is a lack of something is changing, priorities are changing, and you need to adjust. The ability to adjust and the agility to say, okay, things are changing, we need to adapt and we need to change, this is really critical. And it's a critical competency in HR that I'm seeing more and more in different organizations that will enable the success, not only of digital transformation, but of any other transformation projects in the business. And what I've put in the center here is, in summary, the last 2 or 3 slides, the process to implement the transformation and the process to manage the risks and manage the barriers. Those processes are not new. They are embedded in familiar change management models. So if you have people in your organization who are familiar with change, people who are expert change managers, they will be quite familiar. So we have the McKinsey 7S model, which is in the center. We have the Kotter 8-step change management process. I always advise people in different organizations, you have to learn those models, because for any change, including digital transformation, it is important to manage the change in a proper and educated way. If we don't manage the change in a proper and educated way, as per one of those models, then for sure we'll find obstacles, we'll find barriers, and we will lose value down the road. So models such as this model in the center, the 7S McKinsey or Kotter model, or any other change management model that is appropriate for your business, for your organization, it is really strongly advisable to adopt one of those models to digital transformation. Now, I'll run very quickly through the next few slides. These are just examples of how digital transformation affects different HR processes. So in talent acquisition, as I mentioned before, in recruitment, AI can help you look at job descriptions and fine-tune job descriptions, make better, more effective job postings. The candidate sourcing, when you source the candidates, the AI can advise you where to source your candidates, on which platforms to advise, which countries, which demographics, which universities. It suits it, it matches it to the requirements of your organization. Obviously, things like skill assessment and online interviewing, they're all affected by AI. An interesting on bias mitigation. So when we do person-to-person assessments and recruitment, all of us have biases. Anyone who studied psychology will know that inside of us, no matter how we resist it, we are biased. We are biased by different factors based on our background, and these biases affect the interviewing and acquisition process. The computers, they don't have those biases, so the system can benefit us in removing the bias, and many, many other things. In training, digital transformation and AI can customize training, can schedule training more effectively, can deliver the training more effectively, and measure the impact of training more effectively. In performance evaluation, this is one of my favorite topics, actually, performance management. Performance management is transforming over the last 3 or 4 or 5 years, started by leading organizations in the business like Deloitte and GE. The age of annual performance reviews, when everybody once a year sits down and looks at performance and gives scores, that age is dying. And the digital transformation and the technology helps us to make performance management a much more continuous, smoother, and effective process that helps the business, helps managers, and helps the employees. Things like retention, the AI and the big data system, it will help us learn what are the things that make people leave our organizations, what are the things that demotivate people, what are the things that attract people to other organizations, and it will help us adjust our policies, adjust our procedures, adjust how we train our managers so that we can improve our retention and avoid people leaving the organization and losing talent. Now, people analytics. This is one of my favorite topics, and I will stay here for a while. So people analytics is basically reports from the system and insights from the system, but on steroids because it's powered by AI and powered by digital technology. So once we started having our HR system, and all of you have seen reports of number of people in the organization, how many people you have in the organization, what is the age of those people, what is the experience of people. This is the basic HR reporting. Now, what people analytics do, they bring more and more data into this, and they process the data with more sophistication so that we get much better insights. So we use statistics from HR data across the HR systems, but we can also use statistics from outside HR. We can use statistics and use data from the business results. We can use data from the external environment. Some organizations use data from social media. You can see which social media platforms our staff and our employees participate in. What is their general opinion? What is the culture? What is the trend? How much participation people have. So all of this huge amount of data can come around and process so that we can go from data to insights, saying, oh, this is an interesting trend. This is an interesting relationship. So last year, we had an increased resignation. Our resignation increased by 5%. But actually, at the same time, that particular social media platform had an increase, and people were complaining on that platform about work conditions. Is there a relationship between the two? If there is a relationship, where is it coming from? What can we do about it? This is the type of insight. And then we can make decisions. We can say, right, we will monitor that platform where people were complaining. We will see what complaints are popping up there. We will compare them with what people are complaining about at the workplace, and we will see if that is the same, and then we will do something about it. So all of that is becoming possible through people analytics. Now, as you can see from the reports, more than 70% of companies say that people analytics now are high priority, and only 9% of the companies say that they fully understand and exploit people analytics in the optimal way. And on the right side, you can see the sources of data that feed into people analytics, which are not exclusive to HR. These sources of data come from different parts of the business and from different platforms. Now, the 7 pillars of people analytics, according to this AIHR organization, these are the areas where people analytics are most effective for us as HR people. So people analytics help us do workforce planning. People analytics help us do sourcing and talent acquisition. People analytics help us do employee value proposition, which is a big thing now, employee value proposition. What does our organization offer our employee as a package? Salary, benefits, good feeling, relationships, why employees like to work for our organization. It's really important to understand that because it's such a complex topic, people analytics can help us with it. In the past, EVP, or employee value proposition, was almost equal to the package. So EVP, when you speak to someone at HR, what is the EVP? They say, well, this is the package they get. The salary, the bonuses, the holidays, and so on. Actually, it's much more complex than that. Some people leave one job and go to another job for a similar or lower salary. But because the EVP, the total value proposition for the employee, is better in that organization. So now with data, we are able to start to understand that, and we're able to adjust and improve our EVP, and maybe even reduce the costs. At lower cost, we can offer a better proposition to the employees. So, for example, if you have young females with children in the organization, for them, it's really more important to have time for the family and for the children than to have some extra money in the salary. So if we adjust our workplace, if we adjust our day, if we adjust how we approach it, and we give the females with young children an opportunity to spend more time with the family and with the children, they will be more likely to be happy in the workplace. They will be more likely to stay in your organization and give more because you appreciate them and you help them. And similar for other demographics. So people analytics will help us understand all that and will give us insights into all of that. Now, we have a future perspective. So these are 2 or 3 slides at the end about the future. This is a study from Harvard Business Review about the future jobs. And you can see on the chart, by the way, I'm an engineer by background, so I love charts. I apologize for the extensive charts here. But you can see very interestingly, going into the future from 2020 to 2030, what kind of jobs Harvard Business Review sees coming up. So obviously, a lot of traditional jobs are disappearing. So jobs like, for example, the bank teller in the bank, this job is disappearing. Jobs like file processing and filing, this job is disappearing because digital is taken over. But look at what kind of jobs are coming in the future. So something like chatbot and human facilitator, which is up on the top here. This is a job that Harvard Business Review expect to come, a person who will facilitate the interaction between people and the chatbots. That will become a full-time job. Jobs like a gig economy manager. So gig economy manager, this is the person who manages the gigs or people like me, really. So when I go and do a project or I do a presentation, not as an employee, but as a contractor, these are gigs. And this economy is exploding because companies are outsourcing so much that at the end of the day, organizations will have to employ people just to manage this environment. So there are some quite interesting jobs coming up in the future, and it will be good for us as HR to look into those jobs and to think which ones of those jobs will come to us, and how do we prepare for that, and how do we ensure that we have the right people with the right skills to fill those jobs when we need them. Because if we're not ready, those jobs will remain vacant, and other organizations will get the few people who can do those jobs. And on the left side, you can see the 5 categories that will be important for the future jobs. So things like data literacy, human-machine partnerships, the partnerships and the interactions between the humans and the IT, things about organizational resilience. which became very important after the pandemic. How resilient is our organization? How strong is our organization in dealing with events such as a pandemic? A lot of organizations who did not have resilience, they disappeared or they died. And some organizations didn't because they had the systems and they have the resilience in them. Things like trust and safety. A lot of organizations were exposed as not safe and not trustworthy for their employees. When the crisis happened, when the pandemic happened, they did not treat their employees very well. And then when the pandemic passed, people don't want to work for those organizations anymore because they have seen how poorly they treated their employees under pressure. So we must make sure that our organizations are resilient, that we have in place all the things necessary for supporting and surviving through crisis. So these are the type of jobs that we look in the future. This is a very interesting thing also. This is a study, again, from Harvard Business Review. This is a study on data about people, about interactions of people. So this study looked at the volume and the type of interaction between people in the organization, in different teams, who interacts with who. And they actually found out that there are signatures, there are indicators. So on the left side, this is a typical description of an efficient team. So when you see inside of the team, in the core of the team, you have the purple part, you have strong interactions. So over here, you have really strong interactions inside the team. And then on the periphery of the team, on the outside of the team, all people have many interactions in different directions. They don't overlap. This is a signature of an efficient team. This team does not waste interaction to repeat. So same people don't interact with the same people. They spread out. And this is the signature of an efficient team. And on the right side, this is a signature of a siloed organization. So you have different teams. They all very interacted within each other, but there are very few interactions between the team. So when you study the data about people interaction in your organization, you can look at this and you can identify, oh, this area, I will have silos there. I will have teams that do not speak to each other and teams who do not work together effectively just by looking at this data. And you can start to plan how I'm going to do this. And you can look at this organization, this type of teams, and say, this is a successful model. How can I replicate? How can I analyze this model? And how can I replicate and make the same in different parts of my organization? So this is a very interesting insight from people analytics. And at the end, the last two slides, things to consider when we deploy HR and things who could be a barrier to deploying AI and digital transformation. So again, all of this is driven by data. So the beginning, we need to have good data. We need to do the right implementation for the AI. We need clarity. Eliminating bias is important. And the barriers would be, a big barrier is privacy concern. So especially when we deal across borders, when we deal across organizations, a lot of people data may be considered confidential and private. So it is really up to us, HR, together with the legal department, together with the corporate department, to decide which data can be shared with whom and to what extent. And it doesn't mean that we stop sharing. What it means is that we need to manage that. So for example, if we have health data. So we have health data about people, who's getting sick, who's claiming medical benefits, who is missing days at work. On an individual level, this data is highly confidential. So you cannot say, in the big analysis, you cannot go to the management and say, well, Muhammad, you know, he missed 10 years last year, he looks like he's sick, or, you know, flan, so on. At the individual level, you cannot do that. But if we aggregate this data, and if we anonymize it, it can give us tremendous value in analyzing and understanding how do we do our health policies, how do we treat people, sick leave, and so on. So we just need to be mindful about how to properly use this data. And this is, at the end, some of the success and factors and potential derailers. So just a summary of what I said. There is no end to digital transformation. It's an ongoing process. Don't follow trends. If everybody is doing digital transformation, it is not a good enough reason to do it yourself. You have to have a good target and a good objective. Go for impact and not for technology. Be realistic, have targets, have milestones, but be ambitious. Don't say, oh, we don't have budget, so we don't do it. No, we need to keep pushing. Things like this. Make it business user-friendly. As I mentioned, it's important that whatever system we have, people like using it. And last word to HR, we're all HR people, we deal with people, but we need to get really comfortable with data and with numbers and not be put off by data, because this is the blood, this is the future of HR. We all need to be data-oriented. Thank you very much. This is all for me, and I'm happy to take your questions. Thank you for your attention.